Um, I mean, this is Ryan's meeting, so I feel like I'm kind of taking over at this point. So
No,
sorry,
send
Ryan.
it. No. Go right ahead. Go right ahead.
Are you good? Are you good with is everybody good with keeping it kind of informal since it's a small group today?
Yep, works for me.
I think it would also be really helpful to have VDOT be here as part of the smart scale discussion. I think I think that the price escalations or the cost escalations were consistently high for all of the projects. So I know that VDOT is going to be having some conversations internally sort of to talk about the process as well and to debrief. I think one of the challenges that we're facing is how can we get sort of better information or how can we best support a process that helps us make financial decisions about the process or the projects that we're submitting earlier in the process. I think it's not really uncommon to take multiple cycles to move projects forward, or the first cycle is kind of more of a scoping exercise. And then, the projects that aren't awarded funding, there's an opportunity to go back and revisit the scope. But I think one of the conversations we want to have are there opportunities to maybe put more thought into really targeting the improvements we want to see and scaling back the projects to the kind of like to meet the bare sort of needs in order to keep the costs as low as possible and to make them as competitive. But I think that's a conversation that's going to be happening probably in every district and every locality throughout the state. I don't know, Alberic or Ben. Sorry, Ben, you've been here for like 2 weeks, but I don't know if you have any thoughts or if you guys have had any conversations you want to add to that.
I was curious if you've seen cost estimates from other regions and if they have had the same level of contingency applied to them as that bike ped bridge across the Ravenna.
The bike ped bridge was like exceptionally high because it was a very complex project. So that one is probably sort of going to be a little bit of an externality. I think that other projects, though, I mean, most of them didn't quite double, but they came pretty close to doubling, probably.
Yeah, Mike Barnes said that statewide everything's just super high, especially the contingency and inflation. They just shot those prices up like crazy. So there's some projects where they have like huge contingency prices, which obviously like for Ravenna, I think it's like we expected like a $24 million price tag, and it's double that essentially. And that's because the right-of-way cost, but also they're just like expecting a whole lot of this money to be thrown at it for other random problems. So we don't really know what we're going to get. And then we also kind of learned that one of our projects was a roundabout at Old Trail and 250 by Western Albemarle High School. And we were like, oh, we can try to get schools to, donate the right of way because part of it is on school land. And they were not they were for it. They just didn't respond very fast. So we don't think we got the letter in time for VDOT. So we definitely learned in the future, like, ask very, very early and try to see if we can just squeak out bits and pieces of land here and there to cut down the right-of-way cost. Because I think for that one, the right-of-way cost would have been cut by almost $1 million if we just acquired school land, because that's where the roundabout would have been. But oh well, next time, I guess.
Yeah, so the Ravenna River Bridge, I mean, now the cost estimate is just silly. I mean, I'm just being honest. There's no way. But the one that really set off a red flag for me, where it's like they're having like an indulgence of inflation worry. It was actually the Fifth Street multimodal project, which, I mean, there's no way, like there can be no transportation improvement at all anywhere if it's going to cost like $25 million or whatever that thing is for a quarter mile of improvement. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, we'll see. Hopefully it's being consistently applied across all districts, and and projects get built, and yay, they come out way under budget, and we learn. But number one, I would hope that at minimum there's consistency about that. And I just met the CTB rep for the first time a couple of days ago, and he's a really awesome guy. And I think that's something that at a minimum he can do is request fairness for all the districts. But then also maybe they'll come to come to a little bit less pessimistic view about the world. I mean, like that consultant report was like talking about like ship captains going off to fight wars, and how we have to account for that in our cost estimates, and like it just seemed it seemed a bit much. That's all.
Yeah, I think this is a conversation that's going to be happening on a number of different levels. So it's going to be happening at the state for them to like evaluate their process and figure out how can we move the best projects forward, and how can we be most efficient with our resources, from the state level to support projects that are going to have the highest opportunity to, be selected. And then I think there's also a conversation that needs to happen at the regional level about, how do we pursue some of these other projects that, outside of maybe the more traditional means, like are there other opportunities to break this into phases to help reduce the costs, or to find resources in other places? So there's that conversation. And then I think there's also the conversation that we have more at the, local level about, what are the most important things that we're going to achieve, and what are we willing to forego in order to, to move at least like the very most important aspects of that project forward. So I think we're going to have to address it from all of those different sort of facets.
Listen to your muted.
Thank you. I was at the Transportation Research Council meeting yesterday, and VDOT is working on a cost estimation system that they plan to have available next year. And that will help with estimating, like kind of regulating it and making it like systematic for all of the areas. And it'll help with estimating the planning level costs. So I think that like they are looking into it already, and there's hopefully a solution as far as like equity among the applications and the, cost estimates goes.
We're not too optimistic about getting really any of our bike ped projects, just because the costs of them are so high. And like you're right, Peter, it doesn't make sense that it would cost $25 million or how much ever it costs to build a small amount of a shared use path along the street where the right of way is like, it's just, it doesn't make sense for VDOT to pour all their money into that rather than, doing VDOT things and building a bigger intersection or something like that. So that's just kind of our view here. We're just like, okay, we'll have to be very, I guess, particular about what kind of projects that we think VDOT is going to like to see as well.
Right. And by the way, like, in a way, there's kind of no use getting super upset about stuff. We don't know. And January is not that far away, but it is also a case of like, okay, pay attention. Now I need to talk to, Representative Byers about something I didn't plan to, but that's okay. He's an approachable person, and so we'll see. So thank you for that. There's no answer to this question, but I wanted your impression. So
Byers a cool guy. He owns Subaru dealerships in Nova. I've been to a few.
Yeah, I think we've all sort of identified that it's a challenge, and because it's a state process, a lot of it is going to be dependent on what they do moving forward too. But we can certainly make sure that they're hearing from us as they decide what that process is going to may or may not look like.
Awesome. by the way, Chris is finally online. And Ben, do you know everybody that's on this call? It is a small group, but shouldn't make assumptions about that.
Yeah,
at this
I have
early
met
stage.
everybody on the call today. So
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Peter, for doing what we should have done.
I was thinking Ben does know you guys, so it's
Yeah.
but no assumptions there. On that related note, knowing that it would be a small gathering, knowing that Michael and Chuck wouldn't be here, I didn't push the word out about this meeting, so it's no surprise that it's a small group and people know each other. As we approach December and we know a little bit more about who's going to be there, I could get the word out about the next meeting. It just seemed like this was going to be a small one, so maybe short too.
Yeah, no worries. Did you want to talk a little bit about OneMap, Ryan?
Sure, Sandy, and this will be real brief. Sandy and I, we met with Ruth to discuss some of the sort of attribute tables part of the OneMap process. It's a little bit more involved than I thought. I thought it would be just maybe some digitizing, but I think that from our meeting, it sounds like I'm going to have to look at endpoints and things like that. I think I have a pretty good idea of what's needed. I think from a standpoint of starting, I think I'll probably want to start with Albemarle. I may, Alberic, between now and say the next couple of days, reach out to you just to say, hey, does this look right? Is this up to date? It's a lot more intensive than I thought it would be. But I think that this will be good now that Ben is on board. From what I hear, I think that Amanda Ponce and Chris, to some extent, and Kevin Simpkins were in a collaborative effort to get the city GIS information together. I think it's there in some form. What we're going to do, Ben, I know we gave you like a 5-minute intro to OneMap the other day when you were here. Basically, Ben, if you can sort of look at where the city is at on your end, I will start with Albemarle because I have the use of Alberic, and maybe by the time the next meeting, we can move forward with maybe the city, finish up the county, and then figure out how best to approach the university. I'm not sure who at the university participated in this in the past.
It was Bill Palmer.
Bill Palmer, okay. So I will also try to reach out to Bill Palmer as well, but I think just for the simplicity, I think I want to start with Albemarle first, if no one objects.
I'm cool with that.
that sounds good. You also may reach out to Patrick Clark at UVA P&T. May have some good information for you on the map for UVA stuff.
Thank you, Ben.
I think we had all of UVA's data, but it's probably a few years old, and there might be a little more expedient than others agencies in developing additional infrastructure. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
And yeah, Peter, I'll probably reach out to you too. I think you're very knowledgeable of like both city and county. I have a lot of work to do, so but yeah, I might reach out to you in the next couple of days as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I've got a bunch of resources. For example, the draft attribute table, for example, stuff like that. I could share.
Okay, that sounds good, Peter. I know that I don't know if you still have the packet from, I think, the meeting in the summer. But those are the attributes that I have. I think it was like 2 meetings ago.
Okay.
But those are the attributes that I have. I'll be.
No, you probably captured it at that point already. No need to reshare, because we did speak about it over the summer. So you probably caught it then.
Yeah, I noticed that there were a lot of fields that were not completed, but I think from the discussions that the committees had and then talking through, I think I have a good idea that much of that still will be captured. So yeah, I might have to go back and plug in some data where there is not.
Yeah, and then my recommendation would be to keep it really simple, and there are very few things that the one map needs compared to what the localities need to have, as long as when you're sharing back and forth, like you're using like consistent language. So when stuff gets passed back and forth, it doesn't get messed up. But you could strip out probably 9/10 of those fields, and it'll still be fine.
Ben, Alberic, I don't know if you all have any thoughts, and Lucinda as well. If
Have what?
not,
I couldn't hear you, sorry.
yeah, if you had any thoughts on.
Oh, I mean, if you
one
want to
map.
send what you have with the data to the actual table, I can kind of get an idea to see what methodology you're going to use. Because I'm kind of curious, because at one point I just was like, start from scratch and just draw everything in, I guess, by hand. It'll take forever, but like that's the way to do it, I guess. But I want to see kind of how you're approaching it, so I can have an idea of what kind of data and what kind of things I can pull as well. So yeah, if you just want to send me a shape file or something like that, that'd be great.
Yeah, one thing I was curious, Alberic, do you know how many projects have been built, new construction projects in the county, probably around the development area or the county's development area around the city? How many of those projects include, say, sidewalks or
I'll have
maybe
to
a section of shared use path?
I'll have to check on that. I don't know off the top of my head. Kevin probably know. But I mean, that's one thing we're working on heavily, like sidewalk and shared use path stuff. So it's gonna grow in theory one day, the amount of stuff, but as all things happen slowly. But I can check on that and get back to you, because I think we do have some layers that have sidewalk and shared use path data. The accuracy of it is here, it's decent. I would definitely go back and look at aerial imagery, or even just go places and just see what kind of stuff's out there, because some of it's wrong. But I can get back to you on that and see like how many projects we have that are sidewalks. We want mostly sidewalk and shared use path focused projects. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes when like a developer comes in, they'll put in, say, a sidewalk or a section of shared use path along their frontage or side property or something like that. And I know that that information has not been updated with the JAS files that I have, but it's only like from the past maybe year. I think the county data is like a year and a half old, so it's only maybe through construction projects. Also, I don't know if the county has put in like any facilities maybe not associated with a new construction project. I think about 2 or 3 months ago, Kevin McDermott mentioned that the city, I mean, that the county had constructed maybe some segments of sidewalk, maybe in the Ivy Road area.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so like those little things I will not have right now, but just not a project for today or this week, but just keep that in mind. Any of those types of projects, whether it's bike facilities or pedestrian facilities, either associated with a new construction project or just out of the counties.
Yeah, I should track those so we know kind of what's happening in the pipeline as well. So that's a good point. I'll look at that and kind of see what products and stuff, because yeah, we usually try to, especially like I mean, I have to build sidewalks with VDOT now, they're required for most things, but if we can sneak in a shared use path in there, or like a wider sidewalk, at least that's our usual goal.
Gotcha.
Are you all adding those as map layers now, Eric? Like if there's a new sidewalk or a new shared use path, like as those come in, are those being updated as map layers?
That's probably a GDS question I can ask them. I don't
Okay.
do that specifically. I mean, I usually just do stuff for transportation, like as we need things, I can ask, but if they add stuff, otherwise that'll be a good layer to have so that we can track the stuff as well. And then that can be something that I work on in the next coming months as well. So we can have a working document of where we know things are happening.
Yeah, because I think one of there are a couple of challenges that we're working through. First of all, is like how do we combine the data from multiple sources into like one document. The second is verifying the accuracy of the information we already have. So that might be like a future phase. And then the third phase is how do we make sure that we're continuing to update the information, on an ongoing basis.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
So I'm writing this down.
And that can help Ben. I've got the city trails layer, I think is pretty much ready to go. If Ben needs help looking at the layout of the shapefile, and I'm not sure what Amanda had going on. For the county, like to that question, I know Avon Street's getting all sorts of new sidewalk all the way from Mountain View Elementary now. I forget the name. That used to be Kale, coming in almost not quite to the city limit, but to the interstate at least. So I don't how those get added when they get built. I don't know how that happens in the county.
Yeah, I can look at those and start something, or if you want to send your shape file, I can make a few edits, send it back. I mean, whatever works best for you, basically.
Yeah, so I mean, I think this is sort of exactly the discussion we want. So thinking about like Albemarle County's Avon Street sidewalk projects, for example, those getting built, when the one map is working, those getting built would be like part of a quarterly or a biennial update, because those sidewalks already should be shown on the one map as a planned facility. So it's just a status change in the attribute table, rather than like having to be like, building the park and ride facility, for example. That's in the county. Maybe it'll end up, I guess it's a city project, but like knowing how that's going to fit into the puzzle without even having to ask the county, although you will want to ask the county about that just for verification, but your initial investigation would be simply like, okay, we're building this thing. We have a vague idea there's going to be a shared use path. We're going to have a bus stop. How can this stuff all fit together? So when the facility does get built, it just like falls right into place.
Lots of work to do, I guess. How long has the one app been going on now? Like, how long has this process been
Since
in the works?
I guess 2019.
At least I started in 2019 and there were conversations happening.
Yep.
So
it was the recommendation. Yeah.
Ryan's job is to like at least get the base map done.
Yeah. But I mean, it seems super intimidating, but there was work done. I think it's just an investigation to find where that stuff is. And sorry to keep preaching and hogging the microphone, but the whole point is, like, when we did the bike ped plan, we had to do this investigation, you know, to find every facility. And this way, we're just doing this investigation one time, and that resource will be there for, like, you know, every iteration. It'll contribute to it'll be a key piece of the county's transportation plan. It'll be a key piece of the city's mobility plan when that happens, and just make things easier.
Was there anything else wanted to discuss, or other than one map?
No, that's all for one map. I think, you know, we'll just keep each other updated in the next couple of weeks. I know the holiday's coming up, so probably in 2 weeks, you'll see some product on this end. So,
Okay, cool.
in general, I don't know if Ben or Alberic, and Peter, I know you've had, I think, two Alliance meetings since this group met, but Ben, Alberic with the raise grant, I don't know if you all, or Lucinda, if you all have anything you want to share. Chris?
I can go. I mean, our main goal right now, obviously, Kevin's spread very thin, so things have been changing around here rapidly. But right now we're kind of working. Our main focus for the next few months is going to be doing our prioritization of all the projects we have in the county. So that's going to be a multi-week affair of us, me Kevin, just like us sitting in a room and just going project by project and just assigning values. I appreciate watching yesterday, Sandy, that one with the consultants. I like how they approach stuff, so I'm going to use some of their data and methods to do the safety things. And I'm also going to watch how the city did their prioritization to kind of see what they're doing as well. But on our end, that's, I think, our major focus right now, and then also working with the long range team to kind of work on the multimodal plan whenever that starts happening.
Yeah, I'd say from the city's perspective, the main update is me, probably. The second update would be that we are trying to hire a bike ped coordinator. We're trying to get that job position through our HR department, so that we will have somebody who will be able to address those things more directly, unlike me, who's sort of spread across all of the modes. We are working through a prioritization process right now, using a GAP grant. So we're doing a similar process as what Campo is doing, and also pushing forward on taking care of some safe routes to school projects to make sure that we're still getting kids to school by bike and ped, due to the fact that we don't have enough school buses running service in our city. So all things still going on, still getting caught up on some of the happenings around the city. So I'll probably have more to report next time.
And I can add the Washington Park bike ramp ADA connector from Madison Avenue off of Rose Hill Drive down towards Madison Avenue by Preston. We had our pre-bid meeting, so it's out for construction. We had 4 contractors actually show up, which is great because I've had projects that nobody shows up to even try to build. So we had a few questions, and then I guess we get our bids come back in like 2 weeks. And so the idea is that gets constructed over the winter and opens up sometime in the spring. So that'll be a nice connection between the 2 Madisons. And also it appears the city has got the money and almost all the lights are green to acquire a piece of land on the opposite bank of Moores Creek from Azalea Park at Old Lynchburg Road near the interstate. And we're talking with the next property upstream, which is the University Credit Union. This would connect the Azalea Park, Old Lynchburg Road area with shared use path right into the Wegmans Trail Hub area. So these two projects might have some simultaneous, it might be 3 years out for construction, but the pieces of land that we've not been able to get any traction on for a while, all of a sudden, both of them might be turning on pretty soon for city ownership. And that would really extend the Morse Creek Trail system up creek from the 5th Street Hub proposed project locations. And I'm also finally getting easements from the Wegmans property that we need for the 5th Street Hub. And I discussed with Tim the possibility of some property acquisitions on the city side of the creek there that we had been talking about 4 years ago when this project started, and they never went anywhere. And all of a sudden the property owners are like, yeah, you know what, maybe we can find a way to get that property over to the city. There's big empty pieces of land kind of next to Waffle House. So I think when we reconvene on the hub project, we'll find out if any of that affects what is going to happen with the 5th Street Hub project and how that all ties together.
So somebody said, maybe it was at MPO Tech, that actually the hub project was about to start. Are there any updates or like what's next for that, what that means?
I don't know that anybody on this, there probably are, but I don't know that any of us on this meeting have that information.
Yeah, I was like, wow, it's cool, and it's too bad it's happening now instead of like maybe 1 year quicker, because I think that's going to be a great case study about what happens as far as costs compared to what initial estimates were. So we're going to find out right away about like, how much of a factor inflation really is.
Yeah, I think we're kind of in, this is the joke, right? Like we're constantly in unprecedented times, right? And the joke is like, can you go back to the time that wasn't unprecedented? I think there are like very real inflation factors that are in place right now, and cost escalations due to like the supply chain disruptions and things like that. So it's also possible that the actual costs for project implementation currently are really high, but that they won't necessarily remain that high in the future. So I think this may or that may or may not be true for projects that are being implemented right now.
Yeah, the ship captains may actually get back on their ships and it's all okay.
Yeah.
I know, Chris, maybe, we need you in your job, but captaining a ship might be kind of fun. Like maybe we could help our projects by going and captaining some ships through the Suez Canal for a while.
Sure. I'll also say that, I think this is like across all the construction sectors too. I think I saw a headline that, the one of the, like for this exact same project with no adjustments from, an estimate a year ago for a building that Nelson County was looking at, the new cost estimates are now 2 and 3 times higher than what they were originally.
Yeah, I'm harping on the 5th Street Trail Hub because we were wildly optimistic about the cost. Then we had this reality check and it was adjusted, maybe appropriately. So this, like, whatever it was, $1.5 million became $8 million. And that could be appropriate. That could be okay. So it's like interesting to like see this test, and hopefully it doesn't wind up being 17 instead of 8.
Fair, yeah. There's always that possibility too, I guess.
Yeah, Lucinda, I didn't know if you had any updates or anything you wanted to share.
Oh,
Well, I think that the next meeting, I guess December, we're approaching Christmas. Does the group want to meet maybe a week before, or when is a good time for the group to be? I think that so Jawan from CAT had agreed to speak before the group. He could not make it for this month, but offered December. I know it's getting close to the holiday, but does the group still want to meet in December at your regular time? It is by Zoom, so and then if so, have Jawan.
I could wait till January.
Okay.
I'm fine with that as well. I mean, I'm impartial to either one.
Okay.
I'll point out that the next scheduled meeting, because the way the calendar falls, is actually relatively early. It's the 15th. So,
Okay.
I mean, December is generally busy, but it's not like it's right up against Christmas.
And Peter, I apologize. I have not. I did not go to the Alliance or the Mobility Alliance meeting, but I didn't know if you wanted to maybe have a discussion about that, whether today or at a future meeting. Any updates on that end?
Yeah, so great question. There's no necessary implication out of that gathering. We talked about really sort of grassrootsy type stuff, but there is one thing that is of interest to two items of interest really. So first of all, we have a date for the annual mobility summit, and that's Friday, February 24th. Save that date on your calendar. And then the other item that was released, this is Charlottesville specific, but the Move to Health Equity released a report that I wrote actually about mobility in Charlottesville. So I'll post a link to that in the chat as well.
Thank you.
Just as a heads up, it looks like the Commonwealth Transportation Board meeting in January should be on like the 17th/18th, something like that. That's when they announce the staff recommended smart scale projects for funding. So I think it also overlaps with a number of other meetings. So we may or may not be able to listen in live to hear the big reveal, but I'll try to follow that.
Thanks, Amy.
Would be fun and stressful.
Maybe we'll all be surprised.
Watch the lottery numbers go by.
Yeah.
You get school off when they have snow, you have to like watch the bottom of the screen to see if schools closed with the snow.
I'm pretty confident that we'll have at least one or two projects funded. So you can place your bets on which projects you think stand the best chance.
We've done well in the past, like honestly, maybe better than we should have. And when you look at the collective regions, so
yeah, so this can be a learning year, if nothing else.
Exactly. Take a step back and it comes out average, right?
Sure. Yep. Exactly.
Well, I have nothing further. Thank you all for attending, and we'll reconvene in January.
Everyone.
All right. Thanks, y'all. Have a good day.
Thanks, everybody.